Never fear, the Rockford Report is back. Today we look at the playoff picture with the brothers Tager. Casey and Jeff join us, and hopefully later today we'll actually have a second pod previewing the awesome doubleheader week 13. All right, guys, enjoy.
He told McNamara he is going to pull out the goddamned advisors. He fucked us in Laos, and now he is going to fuck us in goddamn Vietnam.
We're back after 2-week hiatus. The Rockford Report is back. Casey is back with me. How we doing, Casey?
Pretty good. Happy Thanksgiving belated. I didn't talk to you last week. I know we were always busy that week 12, but yeah, the things are well. Things are good. We're just week 13 doubleheader, man. It's here. We made it. I didn't know if the season, there were stretches this year that I didn't know if we'd make it this far into the season, but we're here. Everybody really is still alive, which is the nice thing about the doubleheader. So I'm anxious to get cracking and looking at some of these matchups and seeing how this week might play out.
Yeah, it's certainly the SKFL's version of the witching hour. There's going to be so much going on, and we'll talk about week 13 maybe a little bit later today, but today it's all about the playoffs, what we see, what needs to happen. Casey's had that beautiful mind type of brain working about all the different permutations. So let's take a quick peek and kind of you shell out kind of what you see as happening. Obviously we got multiple division battles, multiple playoff spots. Anything can really happen.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, Jeffrey and I always talk about it. Week one, trying to track everything because you've taken 9 months off is so tough. Then you get into this groove of things of being able to track all these games and SKFL scoring at the same time. But you get to week 13 and you get to this doubleheader where it's double the matchups. It's almost impossible. You kind of just have to let it play out and know what you need to have happen and then just come back Sunday night and see if it actually happened. But no, the funny thing was I had all this stuff plotted out. Then we had that Ian Wade tie that we didn't even get to really talk about because we took that week break that got flipped to an Ian win. And it's just, I couldn't even keep things straight last week after all that shit happened. So I think I got a pretty good handle on it now. I know who's alive and, who kind of controls their own destiny. And, really, I mean, with the way the doubleheader works, it keeps everybody alive. I mean, all 12 teams are mathematically in it, which is amazing because, in a lot of leagues that doesn't happen. There's a couple teams that would need to throw up a 400 or something like that. But I mean, I can make a relatively good case for 10 or 11 teams finding a way to back themselves into a playoff spot after this week.
Yeah, it looks like Jeff has joined us. Jeff, how are we doing, buddy?
I'm good. Sorry, I was jumping in on work here. So
yeah, no worries. We're just kind of spitfiring here. So right now we got Jeff as the 1 seed, Randy as the 2, Musa as the 3, Ian as the 4. I think we got, AJ at the 5, and then Blake at the 6, or Casey at the 6? Casey at the 6.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. And when, if you're in week 13 and you're one of the top 6 teams, you control your own destiny. And so you start with those 6 teams and say, okay, if they win out, if they win both these games, they're in. Nobody can catch them. So, that's what you're looking at. I think right now, Jeffrey at 9 wins is the only team that has a spot locked. 6 teams can't get to that. Ian is pretty safe because of his points, but there are still 6 or 7 teams that can get to 8 wins. So Ian can't shit the bed this week, but I feel like Ian's pretty good. Yusuf at 5 and 7 is in trouble because his points are so low, but he can at least get to 7. And we'll talk about it. I mean, Rob and Los are kind of these teams that at 4 wins, people feel like they're out of it, but their points are so high that if they win out, that Rob Los matchup, I mean, if they can get to 6 and 8, which is crazy to think a 6 and 8 team can make the postseason, there's a road for them to get into the playoffs, which, is pretty crazy. And
I mean, if you lose 2, Blake loses 2, and Wade only doesn't win 2. That's how it happens.
That's how it happens. Exactly. And you look at that and you're like, okay, maybe Musa can go and sweep the Isbells, which is what you need. And Casey plays Jeffrey and Ian, arguably the two best teams in the league. So, I mean, on the surface, that looks like it's actually a pretty good possibility. The problem is, and we'll talk about it on the week 13 matchup, Musa's just in so much trouble this week. His team's kind of fallen off, and then he's losing his $3 this week on bye, which, that's 80, 90 points that he was banking week in, week out. And so I think that hurts. Just playoff picture right now, Jeffrey was always that 1 seed, but the loss to Ian last week hurt. Ian now is right there in position to steal that division, steal the 1 seed. Jeffrey's got to, win 1 and continue to kind of outscore Ian, which can happen. I still probably have Jeffrey as the favorite to win that division and get the 1 seed, but Ian's going to be close. And whoever doesn't get that because of the division winners will fall to the 4. But I think you can lock that in right now that the 1 seed is either Jeffrey or Ian, with the 4 seed being the other one, Jeffrey or Ian.
Yeah, you got to figure, Jeff, you're playing your brother, you're playing Use. It feels like at worst 1-on-1 for you.
Well, that's the goal. I mean, I kind of, blew my opportunity the last couple of weeks, losing 2. I mean, my magic number has been 1.5 for, 4 weeks now, and I haven't been able to put any sort of dent in that. I have a nice little point cushion, 30, 40 points. So as long as Ian doesn't kind of put up a monster, I should be able to kind of handle business even with a 1-1. But both those teams, I mean, Yusuf, when he has 2 starting quarterbacks, and both quarterbacks actually have really good matchups too. So yeah, I actually still a scary team, but I jumped in late, so I don't know if it was talked over, but I think this is the first time ever we have had like all 3 divisions up for grab in week 13. Normally somebody has like run away with, they're sitting at 12-2. As much as we hope for parity and as much as we hope for balance, there's usually always one owner or one franchise that just is dominant. And, I could make the case that the second place team right now in every division would be the favorite to win that division. I think Blake's the best team in the Knox. I think AJ's the best team in the Pinella, and I think Ian's the best team in the Carl. So it's kind of, I mean, it's what you hope for in week 13. Not only everybody's in it, but the top, like the buys are still in play, and they could be completely flipped.
The buy is what makes that statement, so crucial. It's one less game that you have to win in the playoffs. So, the fact that you don't have, 4 or 5 teams just chasing playoff, you've got 6 or 7 teams chasing a bye, which is huge this time of year.
Absolutely. Yeah. We look at the Knox. I mean, with the Carl, it's pretty straightforward. Jeff and Ian and Casey just trying to wiggle his way in there with a tough schedule. The Knox is just a shit show. I mean, we've got the top of the team is fading. The best team in the division is rising, has been bad all year. And then Wade lurking there with the most points in the division. Who's got Kinney this week? I haven't looked. I should look.
Kinney would be both Isbells.
Okay.
Which is crucial because, the Isbells are the ones chasing Musa. It's, I got to give credit to Blake because, there were 3 or 4, 6, 7 weeks ago where we were killing them. And I'm just saying, there's a learning curve to the SKFL. And, he came in and we were writing him off as one of the early teams and, talking about keepers and talking about the Herbert, building block that he had. But man, winning 3 in a row, that Chubb for Derek Carr trade, basically, I mean, you can put that as one of the bigger trades in SKFL history. He hasn't lost since Chubb came back. And Chubb's been an absolute 3 straight 100-yard games. In hindsight, I mean, Musa makes that deal because Fitzpatrick goes down. Needs to go get a quarterback. If he would have realized how many quarterbacks became available in the following weeks after that move, I don't think he does that. He would have just maybe punted one of those weeks. But losing Chubb has derailed him, and it has totally taken Blake onto this role where, at 3-6, winning 3 in a row and favored in his next 2 games. I've got Blake as the favorite right now to win that division.
I remember when we were talking at the trade deadline, buyers and sellers. I think we all thought Blake should just buy or stand pat because we liked the quarterbacks, we liked Adams, and we liked Chubb coming back, and it has come to fruition. Maybe
And
even
I'll be honest, like, Chubb really was a move that was like kind of intended on him building for next year. It gives him a running back that's a keeper 5. But I don't know if I expected Chubb to come back as soon as he did and as a 100% healthy as he did. And it totally solidified Blake's lineup in getting him that legit top 8, top 6 running back that he hadn't had all season. And Herbert and Wilson have continued to go, and Devontae Adams is continuing to be, the top receiver basically in the league. So he's a scary out right now.
Yeah, very. I mean, you talked about him potentially being the favorite to win the division. I mean, I'd have him. I was looking at lineups, and I'm not projecting on who's starting who in week 14, week 15, but if you treated like week 13 as the, SKFL championship, I think Blake's the scariest team right now. He's got 4 legit guys that can get 45 or above. And, Ian, if he's fully healthy, has that too. And that's why, but, with Lamar being out and Julio banged up and all that stuff, and you don't know about McCaffrey, but Blake, I mean, you feel like, both quarterbacks, Chubb and Devontae, are going to give you 160 points. So then it's just a matter of finding 100 points the rest of the way kind of stuff. So, and then, to talk on Musa, I mean, it wasn't just, in hindsight, the Carr for Chubb thing blew up in his face, but he got killed with injuries. I mean, he thought running back was a strength because he was winning with Miles Sanders being out, but then it just so happened that he lost in the same week. He lost Gaskin and David Johnson. Yeah. And, it's one of those things early on when you have a strength like that, it's really tough because, when you're watching Red Zone, and preparing week in and week out in week 3, week 4, I mean, he had 5 starting running backs. And so you're never in a million years are you like fretting about who you have to pick up come week 8, week 9. Like, I think he had good keepers and he drafted pretty well and he had depth. So you never really, when you have a roster like that, you're never really looking at, okay, I got to go just pick up, Boston Scott because Miles Sanders is out to win me a week, or I got to pick up, Ahmed because Gaskin's out to win me a week. Because it's just like, well, I just got to wait until Sanders comes back. But now, unfortunately, Sanders has come back and the Eagles are so bad. So you went from, thinking you had Sanders to replace the RB1 value that you had in Chubb. And now Sanders is like an RB2, RB3, and it's just killed his team. I mean, it's not like he made bad moves. It's just like some of those guys that he was waiting on, just haven't evolved.
Yeah. I mean, so it just shows, a lot of people poo-poo depth, and they're always just like, make your starting lineup as good as possible, figure out depth on the fly. But this is a year where it's really bit some teams. I mean, Morrow is basically the same situation where, 3-4 weeks ago, he had 4 starting running backs, and he was trying to figure out who to play, made the move to get Kelsey by dealing Ronald Jones, who, has gotten hot again. But in that same time, David Montgomery goes down. And Jonathan Taylor looks like crap. And all of a sudden he goes from 4 running backs to basically 1. And so it's injuries are always going to play a factor, and it's why depth is always important kind of in the middle parts of the season with bye weeks, especially. Once you get to week 13, 14, the depth kind of, it becomes less important. But you're right. I mean, that's what killed Musa. He just lost a couple games that he should have won because the injuries piled up and he didn't have abilities to kind of pivot off of them.
Well, before I ask both of you who you think that 6 playoff teams will be, and I'll give mine as well. Jeff, the Panella, you said you thought AJ had the best team. AJ's got, I think he's got Cappers this week and Los because he played me last week.
Right.
How do you handicap this going down this week? Does A, who wins the division, and B, does Los or Rockford, myself, make that Hail Mary pass to get in the playoffs?
I'll go for, I think Capper, I think Cappers wins the division. I think AJ has the scariest team, but I think the Deshaun Watson losing Fuller now becomes you no longer pencil in Deshaun Watson as the 50. And the game with Cousins playing the Jaguars as well, you don't feel like that's like a huge Cousins ceiling game. So he's been buoyed by those games when Justin Jefferson and Cousins. I think I saw something like the last 5 weeks, Cousins is like QB3. He's like higher than Russell Wilson since week 5. So he's been feasting off of that at the same time Deshaun Watson is elevated to a top 5 quarterback. And I think losing Fuller kills Watson. And I think he has a tough matchup with Indianapolis anyway. So I think, it's AJ's not going to miss the playoffs, I think, but I think to be able to catch Cappers and win that division, I got both of them as playoff teams, but I actually have Cappers as the 2 seed. I think he's going to secure a bye. And I got AJ probably being the 5. I think it's just too tough to expect to win both and then need help in the bye. I mean, Rob and Los have points on a lot of people, but they need a lot to go right. And Los has some questions with Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's going to be just in that, we just played 4 days ago. We just want to kind of like walk over a win against the Redskins kind of thing. So I think that's going to be low scoring. And I just think, it's just too much for you guys to try and catch.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but hey, that path is there. Casey, what do you think? What shakes down in the
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of agree with everything Jeffrey said. I mean, Randy has always kind of been with those receivers that he has, DK, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown. I mean, and Antonio, like he's just so deep there. I mean, AJ and Randy play heads up. I mean, that game decides the division. So you can look at just that straight matchup and say who's going to win it. And I've got Randy winning that one. I mean, to me, it's AJ, Musa, Blake, Casey, I feel like are fighting for 2 playoff spots of those 4 teams. We started out saying, you can make a road for Morrow and Los, but it's a tough road. I mean, it's Morrow and Los play heads up. So whoever wins that matchup has a shot. They have to win their other game, and then they need Casey to lose both, which he plays Ian and Jeffrey. That could happen. But he needs Blake. They need Blake to lose both. And, he's playing Kenny and he's playing down Musa. So I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, you need Kenny to have one of his big games and you need Musa to catch the Hail Mary with you winning both. So it's there and you've got a shot, but I agree. I think Musa and Los, hell of a season. I mean, you look at their total points, they've been tough this year, but I think it's Randy winning the division with AJ fighting for that one of those wild card spots. I think it's pretty safe, but man, AJ's got 2 tough matchups. I mean, the Pinello right now, give him credit. There's not a easy win in there. So AJ could definitely drop both his games and fall to 7-7 right now and be needing help in other places. I mean, if he goes to 7-7, Blake wins both of his games, Casey wins both of his games, AJ's out.
Before you wrap up, you're right. I mean, that's the beauty of the doubleheader is that so much can happen. And it's going to be super interesting to watch it kind of fold out because I can see a lot of that happening, but we always have the unknown, an injury, a weird thing happens. And so we will certainly be watching our television sets Sunday and Monday. Jeff, before we go, you're 1 through 6. How does it shake out?
I got me surviving somehow and hanging on to the 1 seed. It might just be wishful thinking. I think I blew it last week. But I got me as the 1 seed. I got Randy locking in the 2 seed with the bye. I got Blake stealing the division and being the 3 seed. I got Ian being the 4 seed. AJ being the 5 seed, and then I actually kind of think Casey's going to sneak in to the 6 seed. I wouldn't be surprised if it's somebody else, if Musa kind of finds a way to steal that, but I'll give it to Casey right now.
Okay, Casey, give me your 6.
Yeah, I mean, I love that 6 that Jeffrey had. I kind of agree. I mean, we haven't talked about Musa enough today, and Musa's, right now winning the division. He needs 1 win this week to get in the playoffs. That's what Musa needs. But we've said it. He's down his Bucks. If you look at his lineup right now, he doesn't have a defense. He needs Fitzpatrick to get that job over Tua this week, or he's got 0 shot. And he's got to replace Mike Evans. So he needs to find one way to beat the Isbell brothers. He's got both the Isbells right now who are both, on paper better than him. It's hard to take a team like Musa, who has been so good all season, and say he's not going to win 1 of 2 in the finale. But I don't like it. It's tough. So for me, I think it comes down to I want my 2 wins and get to 8-6 and I'm in. But now the big question is, at 7-7, do I get in? And that means I split one of, my game and Ian. And, that, because I feel like that's more realistic. Now, who at 7-7 can trump me? It's Musa. If he loses both, I still got to catch him on points, but it's Wade. I mean, Wade is actually the team that scares me more than anything if I only go 1-1, because I think Wade wins both of his games. I think he beats Kenny and Musa. And so if he gets to 7-7, I have to outscore Wade by about 30, 35 points in that range to catch him on
to beat him.
And so that, to me, that's the matchup I'm looking at more than anything right now is me versus Wade on that 6 seed line. I don't think Musa can win both of those, and I've got him on points. So I think it's me and Wade that are actually fighting for that 6 seed more. I mean, as opposed to anybody.
Yeah, I agree with you. If I was going to put May 6, I would probably lean Wade a little bit, just because if I'm being completely objective, I probably would guess you go 0-2 and he goes 1-1. Yeah. Or if it just as likely you go 1-1, he go 2-0. So I think those are the 2 most likely scenarios. And then it comes down to points. He's got you by 38 right now. Not insurmountable. Your team has been putting up points pretty consistently of late. But if I had to put my cold hard 20 down, I'd probably go Wade there. But again, anything can frickin' happen. All right, boys. Well, thanks for the quick playoff preview. Hopefully we'll get a week 13 preview in here today as well. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, guys.
All right.
All right, good one, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to squeeze in there like that. That's what's so fascinating about the points factor too, is like, you don't think of it being so vital, when you're deciding, do I need a kicker? Or do I need to pick up this D or whatever? But playoff spots are won and lost by 50 points, and 50 points over the course of 13 games is only 5 points a game. So like when you're sitting there debating not picking up a kicker, or I don't have to start this D today because I got, I'd rather pick up this guy for the Thursday game and not have to waiver him or whatever. It comes back and bites you. But I do think there's part of the league that just, if you're not good enough to win the title, you somewhat check out. And I think Musa's one of those owners. I think Musa, when he got to the point of, I lost Dak, I lost Chubb, I don't even care if I make the playoffs anymore because I'm not good enough to win the title. So what's the point? And a lot of the OG owners care way more about their standing and, hey, I've made the playoffs recently or whatever. But I think there are some owners that Musa, AJ,